Welcome to Monday Morning Quarterback, a weekly feature of Cannon Church. I'm Tim Emmett, the senior pastor at Cannon, and on Monday mornings we connect the message from Sunday, the game of football, and the week ahead. You've probably heard of Vince Lombardi. Whether or not you like football, follow football, watch football, you've almost certainly heard of Vince Lombardi. Maybe you know the name Don Shula. Certainly you should know the name of Chuck Noll, the legendary Hall of Fame coach for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Maybe you know John Madden. Tom Landry, coach for the Dallas Cowboys. You probably know Bill Belichick. He's still coaching for the Patriots, a surefire Hall of Famer when his time comes. How about Harry Leyland? Have you ever heard of Harry Leyland? Harry coached the Southside Blue Streaks in the Butler Area Midget Football League. You can't say midget anymore. For 50 years. 50 years he coached 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade players on the south side of Butler. He was my coach in middle school. Harry coached football for 50 years. He also coached basketball at Butler Catholic for 40 years. He was a legend in our community. And I got to tell you, as much as we loved Harry, and we did because he loved us, we were also all afraid of Harry. He did not care that much or at all about your feelings. He was old school. If he wasn't happy, you were going to hear about it loudly and repeatedly in front of everyone. I was terrified of him. He had this vein in his forehead that would pop when he wasn't happy, which meant that it was popping a lot when we were at practice. But you know, I learned some really valuable lessons from Harry. He was the first coach who really drilled it into my head that little things, small things, matter. The small stuff, the details make a difference. It matters whether or not you line up in a good stance, whether or not you're in the right position, whether or not your technique is correct and strong when you block or tackle or catch or throw or carry the football. All that small stuff makes a big difference, and so he was relentless in practice getting us to do things the right way. It just seemed like time after time we'd run a play or run a drill, and I thought it was pretty good, but it was not good enough for Harry. He wanted to see it again, do it better this time. I know also after one practice, he had a way of getting kids motivated. He told us, boys, you have to be a little bit crazy to play the game of football. You can't love this game unless you're just a little bit off your rocker. You're talking to 12, 13, 14-year-old boys. We ate that stuff up. But you know, Harry was also the first coach who ever said to me, if you can go home after the game, look yourself in the mirror, and be honest, and honestly tell yourself that you gave it everything you had, you held nothing back, you did your best, then boys, he said, you're winners in my book. No matter the score, you're winners in my book. That was a huge deal for me to hear, to understand that I can't really control the outcome of the game, but I can control what I put into the game. He wanted us to play hard, smart, and physical on every snap, every practice, every game, give it everything we had. That was the goal. That was the win. He wanted to get the best from us, and then wins and losses, that would take care of itself. You know, and Harry, in his 50 years coaching football in Butler, not surprisingly, he won 10 championships, was in the playoffs all the time, won lots of division titles. He won 2 state championships coaching basketball at Butler High School. But it wasn't just the football field or the basketball court where Harry really gave to his community. He got himself elected to the school board in our district, and then was a major advocate for a vocational technical school at Butler High School. So the kids who knew they weren't going to college, they didn't want to go to college, they wanted to do something with their hands, they could graduate knowing automotive repair or construction. They had marketable skills when they graduated from high school. Harry helped make that happen. You know, on top of all of that, he'd teach boxing on the side to anybody who was interested. And then he lived right next to the park on the south side where kids would go to play football, basketball, softball. Harry knew a lot of poor kids in his neighborhood. They didn't have sports equipment. So he put a bin on his front porch and loaded that up with sports equipment. And all the kids on the south side knew that they could go to Harry's house and get a basketball if they needed one. He just asked you to bring it back when you're done. You know, on Sunday we celebrated All Saints Day, and that's a word that we use in a couple different ways in the church, different but related ways. On the one hand, we use the word saint for sort of exemplary followers of Jesus, famous followers of Jesus, Hall of Fame followers of Jesus, people that we all know, we all look up to. It makes me think of Paul in 1 Corinthians 11:1 when he wrote, imitate me as I imitate Christ. Follow me as I follow Christ. And the saints, in that sense, are people we look up to, and we say, hey, learn about Jesus by looking at them. Learn to follow Jesus by following them. They are kind of ahead of us when it comes to following Jesus. They are filled with His grace, mercy, and love in deep and profound and transforming ways. And so when we look at them, we see Jesus, and we can learn to follow Jesus by following them. We use the word saints for those sort of Hall of Fame, everyone knows them, followers of Christ. But we also use the word saint for believers in Jesus, all followers of Jesus. That's the way the word gets used in the New Testament itself. Paul would routinely open his letters to and address them to the saints in Ephesus, Colossae, Philippi, and he just meant believers. Everyone on Jesus' team, everyone who has said yes to Jesus, they have given their hearts and their lives to Him. It might be that they've been walking with Jesus for decades. It might be that they're on day one with Jesus. They have just come to faith in Him. Doesn't matter. A saint is a holy one, someone set apart by God's grace through faith in Christ. They just believe in Jesus. That's all it means. So what's the game plan for this week? Think about and give thanks for the Harry Leylands in your life. You know, on All Saints Day, we remembered and gave thanks for those in our church family who have died in the previous year. And if you think about it, the people we named, the people whose lives we celebrated and whose deaths we mourn, they're not world famous. They're known to us. They're dear to us. They made an impact on our lives. And I want to encourage you just to think about the Harry Leylands in your life, people who've made an impact on you. And maybe they're well known in their local community the way Harry is and the way Harry was. Maybe they're not. They're known to a few friends and your family and maybe a few others. Think about the Harry Leylands in your life, people who invested in their community, who invested in you, and that's the thing I want to encourage you to think about. Somebody like Harry invested in us. He made a difference in my life. Who made that kind of difference in your life? They're not famous, but when you think about the saints in your life, those who've kind of shown you the love of God, the self-giving love of God, those are the people that come to mind, and you give thanks to God for them. So I want you to pause and think about that, give thanks to God for them, and then I would love it if in the comment section to this video you share the name of somebody in your life like that, a saint for whom you give thanks, somebody not famous but they made a big difference in your life, and for that you give thanks. Love for you to share a name, maybe say a word or two about who they are and the difference that they made, and so we can celebrate the saints together, maybe local Hall of Fame members, not known by everyone, but they're known to us and known to God. That's the game plan for this week. I hope you have a great week.